Everything we do is rooted in two things, the two things that turn, animate, and fuel the world, both of which lead the dog to bark, the baby to squeal, the cat to meow. There is no neutrality between the two. You can't experience one and the other simultaneously. It's what decides if something is closed or open. I was living in the deep countryside in Chile in an organic farm when this lesson was presented to me for the first time. Greg, the spiritual leader of our small community, asked me, "What is the opposite of love?" Taken back by the question, I responded with absolutely no conviction to the seemingly obvious answer. Hate? Thinking back to my preschool lessons where I learned that the opposite of happy is sad, and so naturally, the opposite of love is hate, right? Wrong. Greg corrected me, suggesting that the true opposite of love is not hate, but fear. He explained that all emotions and decisions essentially break down to these two foundational states, love and fear. In our Torah portion this week, Vayishlach, Jacob stays up all night, fearing what reuniting with his brother Esau will look like. Jacob, fraught with fear over his impending reunion with Esau, spends a restless night strategizing for survival. He had stolen his brother's birthright, ran for his life, and now he has been told Esau is coming with an army of 400 men. The text tells us that Jacob divides his camp into two, hoping to spare at least half from potential destruction should Esau seek vengeance. As Esau sees Jacob, the Torah explicitly says that Esau doesn't walk, but he runs to greet his brother and does the unexpected, embracing him fervently, kissing him, and they both fall to the ground in an emotional, loving reunion. Esau then inquires about Jacob's family, asking about his wife, asking about his kids, asking to be introduced to them in this beautiful, loving way, and invites him to travel together. Jacob agrees and says he will follow right behind him. Once Esau leaves, Jacob gathers his entourage and heads in the other direction. Now, it seems obvious, but Jacob represents fear and Esau represents love, right? Wrong. Many of our sages don't read the reunion climaxing with a kiss, but rather they see it as a scribal spelling error, and that Esau bit Jacob, despite every single context clue pointing that to be untrue and that this was a loving interaction. That wasn't their interpretation. This interpretation has been used to cast Esau and his descendants as the perpetual enemies of the Jewish people, the persecuting Christians, the conquesting Romans. Esau and his descendants became labels for these people. To show this, a grave marker for two Jews killed in the 13th century in Würzburg by Christians simply read, Kamu Alephem Bnei Esav V'Hardum. Esau's descendants rose against them and killed them. We are even taught by Nachmanides that Esau and his descendants will continue oppressing us in every single generation. Why did the rabbis do this? All to protect our patriarch Jacob from basically being a blessing, stealing, conniving, and lying character. Jacob is either guilty of doing all of those things to a nice, loving brother, or he's guilty of doing that to someone of less redeemable qualities. The rabbis chose the latter. But Esau exemplifies forgiveness, compassion, and openness. In the plain reading of the text, he stands as a beacon of love, warmly extending a kiss to the brother who once betrayed him. When it would be easy to hold on to hate and resentment from all of Jacob's wrongdoings. Conversely, Jacob personifies the complex beast of human fear, defensive, aloof, and often withdrawn. And truly neither brother is entirely saintly or wholly sinful. Instead, they represent the rich tapestry of contradictions that shape our human experience. However, traditional rabbinic interpretations frequently present us with a dilemma. We must either choose between a kiss that heals or a bite that hurts. One steeped in love, the other in fear. Now, we know that the world isn't dichotomous in this way, but as Greg, the spiritual leader, taught, and is corroborated by psychiatrists and many scientists who study emotions, all emotions are rooted in the states of love and fear. To Brene Brown, who spends a great deal of time researching these states, fear is rooted in a quick response, one that is rooted in protecting, hiding, or defending the self. Love is something that requires nurturing and practice, one that is symbolized by opening, trusting, and respecting the other. The emotions of jealousy, guilt, shame, anxiety, anger, depression, those are derivatives of fear. Simultaneously, emotions like joy, happiness, acceptance, compassion, etc., these are all derivatives of love. To Brown, we cultivate love when we are vulnerable. And she states that her research reflects vulnerability. She states that research shows that vulnerability is the key to building relationships and connection. So as we see, fear is a shadow that darkens choices. Love is a light that illuminates our path. Everything in our story this week tells us to follow love into our decisions. It is a beautiful story about a brother overlooking wrongdoing and unexpectedly choosing love. But our rabbis seem to respond with fear by spearing Esau's name, all to protect Jacob. The rabbis were fully human and made mistakes too. They chose wrong to this question, just like we often do. There's power in reflecting on their and our decisions and asking oneself, am I doing this out of fear or am I doing this out of love? And there are real dangers to allowing ourselves to fall into fear and building walls to the world. The quickness of fear makes the world black and white. It leaves no room for nuance. It creates a breeding ground for dehumanization. My main fear with choosing incorrectly is I find these sentiments in our own community, these sentiments of fear as the world seems to darken. I find them slipping into my own thoughts. As Jews, we should know the destructive power of quick, fear-led decision-making and dehumanization. Slavery and holocausts and pogroms all begin with such language, painting the other as irredeemably wrong or morally less. Yet these sentiments resurface even among us. That is why the practice of asking if an action is out of love or fear is so important. On the surface, it seems so simple, but it gives permission to others to act out of love when you answer correctly. It teaches others a new way of being, and it keeps humans human by upholding the sanctity and complexities of life. This understanding to think through faith, this understanding but not deciding so quickly. As we think about Esau and Jacob and whether it was a kiss when they came together or a bite which led them both to cry and for them to come together asking as an invitation to join as one to meet families, we have to ask who was acting out of love. On this Shabbat, may we use these different characters, these different interpretations, to remind us to ask which state of being is motivating an action, a decision, or a belief, or even just the words we're sharing. In these, are we choosing to build walls, or are we opening gates to new possibilities? I pray we can use this tool to open us to more connection, to more understanding and forgiveness in a world that can seem so dark with a question that can bring so much light. Am I doing this action out of love, or am I doing this action out of fear? With a tight or gentle grip, we ask now, dear Eternal One, bless us with the strength and patience to ask this sacred question and to choose love like Esau. Shabbat Shalom.